Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Cascadero, Bitewing Games. What do you need to know? How does this compare? Why am I talking about it? Why should you listen to me talk about it? Well, I know a few things about a few of his other games, and I've played a few of them to give you an idea of where and how this one might compare. Let's go. So what do you need to know about Cascadero? What am I going to compare it to? How does it compare to the other ones? Where does it fall? How much do I like it? Simping for this game. This game is awesome. If you like the others of that ilk right behind me, the ones that I just stood in front of me, yeah, you're gonna like this one. It's just which brand of this preferred tile laying placement style game are you going to want over the others? Well, let me lay it out for you. Let me give you a few examples. Let me give you a few comparisons. Let me run you through a little bit of what the gameplay actually looks like, and then you'll know how good this game actually is. So what do you need to know first off and foremost? Well, you can see the board in front of you right here. This is an absolutely sprawling board with lots of little envoys that you're going to be slowly sprinkling over these hex-based area control groupings, if you will, to slowly level up your markers on the right side of the board in order to achieve endgame scoring, as well as combos, as well as a little slight action variance on top of that. Now, you may be looking at this and going, this is a very busy board. Actually, just like a lot of the other ones that we just talked about, we just mentioned, it's got a lot depth-wise, tactical, strategy-wise, but the rules overhead is super straightforward. And that's what makes these games set apart from all their compatriots, whether more modern like this one, or within the last couple decades with the other ones. And that's the first comparison I'm going to make. I'm going to argue that this one is sort of like a reverse on its head combination of Babylonia and Blue Lagoon. And some people are going to look at that and go, Chris, of the ones that you just stacked up there, those are by far and away the lightest of the five. Yes, they are. Now, I'm comparing it to Blue Lagoon because it's going to be shorter. It's going to be more dynamic and direct from the get-go. You're going to be almost interacting, touching, coming very close with your area compared to someone else's area. I'm also going to compare it to that because it's probably about the length of that, but it's got more of the Babylonia type strategy of linking your envoys as you go across in groups, in pairings, and even potentially trying to connect them from one area to the next in order to score. But it does the scoring completely differently because the scoring is only done when you touch one of these towns, but only when you're only touching it once, and only when you're not already touching it in the first place. And there, when you pick up on the nuance that that twist provides you in like a 5-page rule book, you're going to be gloriously happy with this one as well. What does this gameplay actually look like? I've wiped the board here so you can see exactly what you've got going on. Now, I've got that other variant side of the board up with the farmers that are stationed here. And the farmers get these individual tiles, which allow you to essentially take actions if you can unlock them and then place one of your envoys onto them. And unlocking just means placing one next to it. And then, oh, not somebody else though, only one of your own. It does not unlock it for everybody, only your own envoys. But essentially all you're doing in this game, similar to Babylonia or Blue Lagoon, is you're just placing these little envoys on one of these hexes wherever you want. Now here, this is the main twist of the scoring mechanism that's going to be different. When you touch or connect to a town, you score that color town on this right-sided track, if you will, and you move your tracker up a certain number of spaces based on one of two things. One, if you are the first person to touch this yellow town, you move your space by 1. If you are the second person or third person or more than the first, if you are not the first contact, essentially, is what the rulebook explains it as, then you get to move it 2 spaces. Now, this little white guy over here, this guy is actually, if you're connecting to that one, then you actually get to move an extra space. So first contact here would get to move 2 spaces, and then if it were as a second contact to the magenta, you would move up 3 spaces on the magenta track. So you're going to be moving up these tracks, trying to get the various bonuses that they provide. You're going to want to move up first on them because it'll get you more victory points at the end game scoring, because that is the main way you are going to be scoring. These connections, these town scorings, don't actually score you points. Doesn't matter how big your grouping is, when you connect it to that area, it doesn't score you any points. It just matters whether you're the first or not the first, and who's on that in that place. Now that's going to change things of what we're used to compared to those other games right then and there. The mindset, the thought process of the connection, completely different in this way. And this is also where it gets very tricky. You can see on the farmer board, this is very crowded. There is not a lot of room for you to maneuver. You're either touching or just off almost every single envoy when you lay it down. And that increases the difficulty and the variability of how you're doing this. Now, these tiles that I mentioned with the farmers, right? They're relatively straightforward. If you unlock it, you have one next to it. You can place one on top of it on your turn. You have things that allow you to move an envoy any space adjacent, which actually will allow you to, coincidentally, if I said played over here, I could move one off of this farmer to potentially be able to move it on later. Well, why would you move it off one, Chris, in the first place? Well, the other tiles that I didn't mention already, this one, move your token over here on the side of the board, your tracker, up by one space. Well, that's awesome. Over here, straight up victory points. That's awesome. Then the last one, which I didn't even have out, right here, place another envoy. Essentially, get another turn. Yeah. Awesome. Let's talk about that scoring though for a second, because the other thing that you need to know is you'll notice that this orange one right here is already touching yellow. These two orange are touching orange. Well, if you were to place another orange token into the connecting spot right here, that would connect these two groupings. You go, okay, Chris, now finally, this is the other rule that we didn't mention, you have to have at least a grouping of 2 to score. So this sole yellow touching envoy right here doesn't score. But you know what? You go, okay, Chris, well, now all of a sudden I have a group of 4. I'm maybe not the first person to score there, or maybe I am, but I delayed it. And now look at, I score it. Well, no, because you were already touching. You can't be already touching to score it. So that wouldn't score you the yellow one at all. It's only when you make first contact do you have to have more than one touching. Now, there's a small caveat to that rule. Let's go over to the scoring tracking board and let me show you what that looks like. So here's the cool scoring tracking board, right? You can see all of these pieces being spread out through the various levels. And we'll talk about it because you have bonuses on this side, you have bonuses on this side, and you have basically a gap that is going to provide an additional layer of challenge. And I love it, actually. I hated it, and then I loved it in a very, very good way. And so what you've got going on is you've got spaces that you're going to be moving up. And so every time you score, as I mentioned on the other side, you're going to be moving up in the track based on the town color. So you're going to be moving up 1 space or 2 spaces, or maybe even 3 if you're lucky. You get across here. If you're the first person, you get the bigger point. Everyone else after you gets the lower, so 2 points and then 1 point. Now this is the tricky portion of things. These are seal spots. Any of these darker areas right along this row, if you are the first person to go across that area and you land on it, you get to claim the seal. Now, why are seals important? Now, I said you can't score an envoy with only one of them touching a town. Well, you play a seal while you play your envoy, and then you can. Now, you may be going, why would I want to do that? Well, sometimes you're not going to have the area that you want to go to, and sometimes you want to get all the way across the board, and sometimes you just need an extra point or 2 or 3 to get you higher up on the track. Because how do you win this game? Well, the game ends when somebody runs out of envoys, or somebody crosses the 50-point marker, and that's it. And so you're going to be racing, scrambling to get these points to go higher up. And the other thing is, if somebody crosses the 50, then you want to be highest up, or you want to be all the way up on your own colored track, because otherwise you don't even qualify for victory in the first place, which is awesome. Awesome. So what else do you need to do? Well, if you're the second person to land on this, you just get to do that move an envoy action that I mentioned previously with the other tile. Then move your tracker by 1 space on this one. Let's say I'm right here. Let's say I move it up to here. I score on the blue town. Oh, look, I can move it up 1 more. Oh, let's go up to the next tier. No, just kidding. There's a big X there. That X means that you actually have to have it exactly enough to cross it, because that counts as 1. It would take 2 or 3. If you only have 1, you're not able to go. You need enough to surpass that gap in the first place. So that is the nuance you have to have, and that's why some of these may make a difference in when you score on this side of things. There are also 2 other ways that you're going to be scoring, and we'll talk about those because those are in the middle of the board here. What you've got essentially is you've got 6 shared markers. So if you have one large grouping of envoys that connects 2 towns of the same color, whether it's 2 oranges, 2 yellows, 2 blues, 2 greens, you get to take one of your flags, for lack of flag here, you get to put them right there and you get that 2 victory points. If you get all 5 of those, you get an additional 10 victory points. So that's 20 victory points right there. Let me tell you right now, victory points are hard to get. Victory points are very hard to get. So that's a lot, a lot. The other, at the top of the board here, then you have the one person gets it, and that's all rewards for endgame. And these are worth a little bit more. And these are worth 3 points each. And they're harder too for that reason. So if you get all 5 of those markers to the top row of this first column, that's one way. If you can get 3 up to the second level, that's another. If you can get 1 to the very top, that's also going to give you some of these points right there. The last 3 are also very straightforward. Have 3 seals that I just mentioned that you're getting off of this track. Now that doesn't mean spend 3 seals. That means have 3 seals unused in front of you at one point in the game. The next one, well, have 5 different colors of towns connected by your envoy train. Okay, that's a little tougher. And have 3 different color towns connected. And so that's going to give you the nuance. So it's a little bit of a race there. Which way are you going to go? How do you want to do that? So now, with a reset, let me show you what the beginning of the game, this turns actually look like so you can get a feel of the gameplay. And let me go then to my final thoughts and my comparisons to the others. So let's go orange, then blue, then yellow. And we can just go through a couple turns, show you what it's going to look like, how the dynamic, the interaction is going to go. And so what essentially we do is we start out with these white ones on the places, the towns with stars. There are also different towns with X's on them, so it gives you some variability about where these are going to start, so you can't always start the same. All of the farmer tiles are randomly allocated face up, so you know where they are and what they're doing. So now, that being said, we start with orange. You know, again, you're going to be starting near these places. So we're going to start next to that 3-point victory. Blue says, okay, we're going to start maybe down here because these are the 2 victory points down here and the blue town is there. Yellow is going to go completely over in this direction near the yellow town here, but careful again not to score right away because we don't want it to be singly touching any of the town hexes yet because that's not going to score you in the future. So orange is actually just going to go ahead and take the 3 points there right away. So they get 3 points. We mark that. Nothing else happens there. Blue again is going to do the same thing. Blue is going to take 3 points. This is not very exciting. Yellow is going to take the 2 points. So now we're going to start to go and see, okay, we can move this guy over here because we're going to connect to that one. Blue is going to go this way and connect down here to the 2. And then yellow is going to go, and let's make this interesting. Yellow is going to score and go here and score. So we take yellow's track and we move it up by 1. So now they are in the second spot there because it only scores 1 because they're the first contact, but it's a grouping of 3. So it does score not just with a 1 envoy there in the first place. So we're going back to orange. And now we're going to say orange is going to score on their track. You move it up over there. Blue, similarly, will have blue score right here. And then this is where, as we move these up and adjust and kind of get this going, you can see you can start to manipulate here. Orange is actually going to do something a little bit clever here as well. And so then if I wasn't the first one here, I might have been the first one there, but then maybe say blue comes in and scores it again. Let's say blue's 2 turns later, then they are the second contact on orange. So they're going to move 2 spots up over here on orange. So now orange is ahead. Now the thing I didn't do with blue there is blue is the first one to cross this threshold, which would have gotten 2 more additional points, but orange would have gotten the seal. Now you can start to see the nuance of this game. And let's say maybe yellow has done a couple other things over here. Maybe they've done this, and maybe they've connected here to move one of their trackers up. So maybe they are going to move into this slot. So they're the first one to cross there. So they're already at 2 more points as well. So now you can start to see the board starting to fill out and flush out a little bit more. And then we go back to orange in the first place. And orange is going to, get that 3 points again. 1, 2, 3. And then maybe we take a look at what blue is going to do. Blue is maybe going to go down here and get the 2-pointer again. So they're up at 7. And then yellow is going to take another turn. And the yellow is going to go down here now. And they're going to start encroaching. Orange is going to go down here as well. Careful not to go next to the cities. Don't like to score them yet. But they're actually going to go for that 3.2 as well in case yellow decides not to do it. Blue sees them encroaching over here. So let's go and get here because, again, you want to be near enough to other people to be able to be second, but not necessarily always first, depending on where you are on these columns and these rows. So yellow is looking and saying, if I get one more yellow piece there, we might be able to do that there. And so yellow is going, okay, well, maybe I will take this one just to edge out orange so that I can get this seal as well and capture this seal. Because again, I can use this to score easier, but I can also use it to get this asymmetric victory condition up here with the 3 different seals as well for yellow in that case. So then orange says, okay, well, if you're not going to take that, well, you know what? I'm actually not going to take the 3 points either. But you know what? I could score this and get the 2 of the yellow. I don't really need that. Let's take the 3 points for right now. 1, 2, 3. And then blue again is going to go, and blue is going to connect here actually. So blue gets to move up 2 on the yellow track, 1, 2. And then we go back to yellow, and yellow says, okay, well, you guys are up here. I'm going to actually connect to this one as well. So they're going to do that. And so orange could potentially block them off, not allowing them to connect to there and kind of put that one in the middle of nowhere. But orange is actually more concerned about getting in here as well. So orange is going to move 2 up on the yellow track. So blue and orange actually are going to get 1 point here. I forgot to score that. That's going to be how things are going to go. As blue then goes again, blue says, okay, if I can get 1 more point on the orange town, I can be able to move one of my envoys for free as well. So blue says, okay, well, you know what? Let's just put it here and connect that envoy. And so now they end up here. I can move an envoy off. I'm going to actually move the envoy. You know what? Let's move the envoy. Let's take this envoy that we just scored here for the yellow, and let's move that off of yellow, because now, again, I can score yellow again down here on blue's next turn. And so that's going to be the nice thing. And so you can start to see yellow is going to take, you know, yellow wants to move up in the blue track as well. So yellow is going to move up there. And then orange is going to go again. Orange sees all the other action going on. Orange doesn't really see any of these others. So maybe orange is actually going to go up here next to this 2 victory points, as well as the yellow town, which is already yellow connected. And then blue says, okay, I'm going to reconnect back to this yellow town as well. So that's going to get me 2 more on the yellow track from a blue standpoint. That hops over. But now they actually get to move up on one of the other tracks, which moves up on maybe this track right here, which again gets me to move up another track. And so then maybe I move them up here, and then blue gets another point. And so you can start to see how the combos are going to build up. And you can have sort of just with that one action of me moving away from the town and being able to rescore the town, just got me 3 spaces on the track and a victory point, essentially. And that's a really good case of how this game works. And that's the example of what this looks like as you start to get the game board fuller and fuller, and the manipulation with these other tiles, as well as scoring the victory points. And you'll see that again in this case, you know what? Yellow is connected down here. And so maybe I actually say I want to connect right here and move off this one for a minute, because I'm going to do the same thing yellow is with that. So then orange goes again. Orange says, you know what? I'm going to connect to this one. So they're going to get 2 points on the yellow track, which again is going to get them another slot up on other tracks, which again, they'll do the same thing blue did right there. And then they'll move up maybe on the white track over there as well. So then that was orange. Now blue again is going to go up here. Blue maybe again, you know what? Let's have them go up here actually. Let's go way up there. And then yellow is going to again connect down here to the yellow city again, which is going to score them another 2 tracks on the yellow. And this is where the tricky part is. I should have been paying attention. If I do that, I don't want to do that, because yellow can only move up 1 space. 2 spaces puts them in there. So they really want to move 1 space and then 2 spaces. So what I may want to do instead on the yellow is I may want to go over here and sort of connect right there, because now yellow connects there, gets you 1, and then if I connect this one back, it's 2. But if someone cuts me off, I could be in trouble there. So let's maybe not put it there. Let's put it here to get the 1, because they're the first one that yellow track, which is going to move it up there, and then up here gets yellow another victory point. And let's say orange isn't playing super cutthroat, and so orange is going to maybe say take the 2 victory points over here, which gives them up to 12. Blue again is playing their own game. They're going to connect over here to white, and white's going to move up there 1. And then yellow gets to take their turn because other people weren't paying attention, or maybe they aren't being as cutthroat as they could be in this game. And then yellow is going to now play it here to get 2. And they cross this barrier, 1, 2, and they get 3 victory points for that. 1, 2, 3. And so then that is how this game is going to be played. And you can see already I've connected 2 yellow cities. So if I had my little flags, I would then place one of my yellow flags right here to get me 2 additional victory points. 1, 2. So what do I think of this game? Final thoughts, pros, cons, and everything else in between. I freaking love this game. This is going to be one of the best crowdfunded games of the year. People are going to love this when it comes out. How it compares and why I left, again, the Babylonia and the Blue Lagoon up behind me. Because it's going to give you sort of the play style, a little bit of both of them combined, with the Blue Lagoon placing kind of wherever you want in sort of groupings, but it's going to give you the Babylonia-esque feel because you're going to be slowly encircling areas in sort of a different way, because Babylonia, you often want to be the most quickly around an area to get the most presence, whereas with this one, you sometimes just kind of want to be second. Second actually is the best, not first. First is the worst, right? Second is the best. And so that is a little bit of a twist on these other games, but it is more thinky than Blue Lagoon. I would say it's probably on par with Babylonia, maybe a little bit more so, because again, it's done in a different way. So you're not used to thinking about it like that necessarily. So you could make the argument maybe it's a little bit more thinky than Babylonia, but heavy tactical nature, as you can see by the board gameplay dynamics of other people laying things down. And you can potentially, as you saw, if I wanted to be really mean and cut out some of these areas where people are moving out or potentially trying to connect, and I can cut them off, well, you only have a limited number of envoys. All of our games so far have ended in people running out of envoys. And that's when the game ends, not when somebody crosses the 50-point mark. So that's what you need to be aware of how closely structured, how the close dynamics of this board are actually going to make a difference. Now, if you played on the other side without the farmers, yeah, you're going to have a little bit more space. You may like that a little bit better. I like the variant already. I already like the variant better, and I love it. And I'd be very happy with the other side too as an introductory, because some of that nuance of manipulating them off of the farmer is going to frustrate people if you're not used to, again, a slight outside of the box thinking, you know, with something, if you're akin to doing crossword puzzles, right? And they give you a crossword puzzle clue. It's not always the obvious answer to the question that's asked. It's sometimes a tangential offshoot that if you're not used to thinking just in that slight different way, your mind is going to go for the obvious answer where it's clearly the other, but it's also tangential enough that if you just don't think like that, it's never going to cross your mind until somebody says it either. And that gives you the beautiful deluxe thinking that this game has without the, 30-page rule book for a game like this that nowadays sometimes its modern equivalents feel like they need to have in the first place to get some of this depth. Depth is not acquired by the thickness of the rulebook, folks. Depth is by the gameplay itself, and that's why all of these games are in my collection, because they're all doing something different, they're all providing that, and they all freaking work amazing. And I'm very happy to say that I am very, very happy with this one as well. Again, how does it compare? Yeah, I mean, this one's going to be a lot lighter. If you're looking for something heavier, go get your samurais, your yellow and Yangtzees, and your Tigris and Euphrates. This is not going to compare to that in this extent. It doesn't have to, though. This is a game, just like with Babylonia or Blue Lagoon, you can pull out with anybody and you can play it with and have a great freaking game, a great time, and no trouble explaining it or understanding what you're doing. And especially with the Hansa El Grande, these games style of Euro, where the rules overhead is low and the depth is high, that is a gamer's wet dream. And this one stays true to that. I'm simping for this game because it's awesome. And if you like any of these others and you want something different, this is an amazing game. Period. Cons? Well, yeah. I mean, just like the other ones, right? These are potentially very mean games. This game is not going to change your opinion if the other ones were potentially too mean to you, if you didn't like the ability to cut someone off and outmaneuver somebody and get in the way of somebody else's plans. If you want your, multiplayer solitaire game where I do my thing and you can't affect me, the interaction is minimal, this isn't going to be it. This isn't going to change things. The other ones are like that too. So nothing has changed from that aspect of things. This one isn't going to appeal to you any more than the others. That's about it. I mean, you don't really need a whole lot more else. This has everything you need. I don't need 3 expansions. I don't need a bunch of extra content. Yeah, would I love a little bit of something extra? Sure, I'd love one other way of scoring or something along those lines. Does it need it? I don't think so. I don't game design. I don't have a clue. I love it for what it is. It's awesome. And that should make you excited. Awesome games in your collection. That's what this is. That's what it does. That's why I'm happy to be able to play it and talk to you about it in the first place. That's all I got. Stay classy. Liege Games. Out! Only board gamer who dares wear a Bluey shirt on a video. Yeah, that's right. Bluey. Hammer Barn. I went there. That's all I got. Stay classy. See you around.